All right, everybody, welcome to the show. I have an interesting one for you today. It's just me today. Reason being, everyone's fucking busy, and BAFTA's happening in 2 days. I didn't want to have to do a solo episode, but here we are. I don't really have much of a choice if I want to get this out there, so that's what we're doing today. We're gonna get the rest of the Best Picture stuff out very soon. Of course, DJ happened. Nolan won. Congratulations. 20 Days of Mary Paul also won. Again, congratulations. Art Directors Guild decided to go with Poor Things ahead of Barbie in the fantasy film category. So that's going to be very interesting and exciting. But now is the time to predict the winners at BAFTA because I have to get this out soon. All right, so without further ado, let's just go ahead and begin. The Rising Star Award. Of course, you can see the nominees here: Phoebe Denevere, Io Adebari, Jacob Elordi, Mia McKenna-Bruce, and Sophie Wilde. I think it's probably between Io and Jacob, with a chance that Phoebe Denevere could upset. I think most people on Gold Derby are predicting Jacob Elordi for obvious reasons. He is a nominee. He was in Saltburn, which is a British film. It is the most logical choice. However, I am going to take a bit of a swing here, and I'm going to go with Io Adebari. This award is voted on by the public, so you're going to go with the one who has like the most stands, I guess. And both of these performers would fit that bill. Of course, Phoebe Denevere also makes a lot of sense. Mia McKenna Bruce or Sophie Wilde could also do it. It is worth noting that the only two British people in this category are Mia McKenna Bruce and Phoebe Denevere. There are two Australians with Jake Lord, Sophie Wilde, and Io happens to be the only American. So I recognize that this is not a wise prediction. However, I'm just gonna go with it. Special visual effects. The creator, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning, and Napoleon and Poor Things. I think Napoleon is likely going to win at the Oscars, as much as I'm really not a fan of that choice. I don't think it's that impressive. I also just don't really like the film. I have a feeling that that's ultimately going to happen. It has been a long time since a film that did not have a production design nomination beat a movie with production design nomination, not since Ex Machina in 2015, get a sound nomination at the Oscars, not at BAFTA, but at the Oscars. And it, objectively speaking, has the more visual impressive effects of the two. It will probably win Visual Effects Society. Really do not think it's going to be Oppenheimer. However, because I have a bad feeling about this already, and I don't want to get my hopes up that they will go another way, I am going to predict Napoleon here, and then from there, I'm going to expect that to just go all the way. Okay, sound. This is going to be Oppenheimer, no contest. If I were making the decisions here, I would go with the Zone of Interest that has the best sound design of the century, probably, to be perfectly honest with you. Does not disparage Oppenheimer's work at all. It is also pretty stellar. However, I do believe the Zone of Interest is a superior film, but it is just going to be Oppenheimer. Zone of Interest is not All Quiet on the Western Front. Makeup and hair. This is the other category I'm going to go with a bit of a swing in. In the conventional wisdom here would be to predict Maestro. I think that probably will just win. That being said, because I just want to cause chaos, I am going to go with Poor Things here. Again, not the wise decision, but I am going to predict Poor Things regardless. And I do think that there is a case to be made here because there is also a lot of showy makeup in that film as well. A lot of it's just body horror. It is also kind of weird to me that Maestro lost the Critics' Choice Award to Barbie of all movies. Don't know what that's about. It probably doesn't really mean anything in the end. However, I am still going to go with Poor Things, partly for the sake of manifesting it because I think it does deserve to win the award, but also because I do think it would make sense if it won here. I mean, the favorite one here, for God's sake, over Vice even. So I don't know what to tell you. I'm probably wrong. It probably will be Maestro, but Just like with the Rising Star Award, I'm kind of willingly walking into a trap of being wrong here. Then again, I also thought I was going to be wrong when I predicted the Director 5, and that ended up being the Director 5. So, what? Maybe a miracle can happen here. Who knows? Look at production design. We were kind of alluding to this earlier when uh, Poor Things beat Barbie at Art Directors Guild. There's obviously a chance that that doesn't happen at the Oscars. I'm not going to deny that. However, I see no reason why Barbie would win here instead of Poor Things, especially since Poor Things is very BAFTA oriented. They love that film. They also gave it to the favorite. When Black Panther wasn't nominated, to be fair, but I don't know if they would have given that film anything anyway. It is worth noting that Barbie does have very popular British production designers. However, I don't really see a reason as to why it would be Poor Things at here of all places. It makes sense for the Critics' Choice. It would make more sense for the Oscar. I don't think it would make sense for BAFTA. Costumes, I think, is a little bit of a different question. I think it could be either one here. The Favorite did also win the BAFTA, and Poor Things is also a very British film. This will be a little bit harder to predict in production design, I think, for the Academy Awards, though, because they are in different categories. However, I get the sense that in this category specifically, it may be a Black Panther versus the Favorite scenario, where, despite the Favorite having the period costumes, they go with the costumes that are a bit cooler and are based on, well, previous IP. I could feasibly see either one winning here. I think I'm going to go with Barbie, though, until it ends up losing somewhere. And if Barbie wins here, then doesn't matter what happens to production design, it's going to win this in a cakewalk. Editing. Don't need to talk about it. It's Oppenheimer. Next. Cinematography is a little bit of a question. Oppenheimer seems like the most likely. It has won the most awards thus far. It won the Critics' Choice Award. Poor Things winning British Academy cinematographers, though, is interesting. I personally would prefer to win here. I think that has the best cinematography of the year, some of the best cinematography in any movie ever. I mean, just look at it; it's absolutely marvelous. That being said, this is not a category like with makeup, where I'm going to willingly take a risk on this. I am just going to stick with Oppenheimer here. I think it's very feasible that Poor Things upsets here, but this is one where I'm going to stick with the black and white IMAX camera narrative that they've been pushing. Casting? This one is difficult. I can see an angle for most of these movies. It's probably not All of Us Strangers so much. The Holdovers is, finding Dominic Sessa, finding Davine Joy Randolph, finding the other kids in that film. It's a very interesting prospect for a casting award. Anatomy of a Fall has Milo Machado Grainer. It has a lot of the other French actors, the prosecutors, the lawyers, etc., who are all very good. How to Have Sex has discovering young actors, kind of like a Rocks or an After Sun. And Killers of the Flower Moon is about finding Native American representation and casting actors who are of that demographic. All of Us Strangers, I don't really get the case for. I'm honestly not sure why it's here, to be perfectly honest, but it's here. So I guess it's a possibility. Earlier, I was thinking of going with Killers of the Flower Moon because of the Native American casting. However, knowing BAFTA's unfortunate history with race, I'm not sure that that is something that they would go for. Not to say that it's impossible, but it's not exactly something they've cared about in the past. Although, granted, this category is only a few years old. I think I'm going to go out on a bit of a limb here, just because I don't really know what to do, and go with How to Have Sex. It's a British film. Rocks won this category. After Sun was nominated. I'm just kind of throwing a dart to see if it sticks. I think The Holdovers could win. I think Anatomy of a Fall could win. I think Killers could win still. Don't really think All of the Strangers has that great of a chance. But all these other ones have a pretty strong case to make, I think. So I think I'm going to say Have Sex. Original score, Oppenheimer. Do I even need to say anything? Supporting actor, this is going to be Robert Downey Jr. Any questions? Even if he were to lose somewhere, it would not be here. But I don't think he's going to lose anywhere. And I'm still going to have to reckon with the fact that, despite the fact that I am not as crazy about that performance as everyone else seems to be, he's just going to sweep. So, yeah, no reason to believe anybody else here would have a shot. There is no Barry Keoghan in this category. That being said, a category where some people do think there is a Barry Keoghan is in Best Supporting Actress. I do not believe Emily Blunt is Barry Keoghan. Barry Keoghan had critics' support. There were critics who were giving him the award. London film critics gave him the award. Emily Blunt wasn't even nominated there. Of course, the fact that Oppenheimer is the big film and the frontrunner for Best Picture is going to pick up a lot of awards certainly helps her. The fact that she's British also helps her. However, I really don't think that means all that much, considering the fact that Davine Joy Randolph has taken like 98% of awards this season. I mean, just look at these tallies. You don't see people sweep this much typically. I see no reason to go against Davine Joy Randolph here, and that's who I'm going to go with. Best Actor. Some people think this is going to be competitive between Murphy and Giamatti, even if it is at SAG and the Oscars. I think BAFTA is going to absolutely go with Cillian Murphy. This is not a Benedict Cumberbatch. This is not a Colin Farrell. If he lost here, I would be pretty fucking surprised. And it might not even be the Giamatti. It could be the Bradley Cooper. I don't think that will happen, but I do think that there are two people, at least here, nipping at his heels, as opposed to just the one in Giamatti. Even if Murphy loses the Oscar in the end, I don't think he loses here. Best Actress. Some people seem to believe that Sandra Hüller is on the up and up here. Another potential Barry Keoghan in this category. Anatomy of a Fall did make Best Film after all. With that said, I don't believe this either. She also did not win at the London Film Critics Circle, though she was nominated. And also, Barry Keoghan was in a British film, and he beat out Ke Huy Quan, who was in an American film. Sandra Hüller, though she is not in an American film, would be beating Emma Stone, who is in a British movie. And the biggest one of the year, might I add. I think it is very unlikely that she triumphs over Emma Stone here, whether Emma Stone wins the Oscar or not. Though if Hüller were to win here, that would certainly make things very interesting. I don't see it happening. Adapted screenplay, this one is difficult. BAFTA often likes to split the screenplay and film awards. That said, Oppenheimer is an interesting prospect here. It could certainly win here. I think all the strangers in the zone of interest are happy to be here. American Fiction, I could potentially see in a weird way. Even though it is that film's only nomination, I wouldn't be so surprised to see it win here. And of course, if it does win here, the Oscar is locked up. American Fiction is going to win that. I have been skeptical of Oppenheimer in screenplay all year, and though I predicted it for the Critics' Choice Award, I'm not sure I want to predict it here. I'm going to go with Poor Things, although I do think it is close. I'm not really confident one way or the other. Original screenplay. This could be The Holdovers, or it could be Anatomy of a Fall. Those are the two here that are in Best Film. They're also the top two at the Oscars. WGA is not going to be of any help to any of us, seeing as it is after the Oscars this year, so God knows what's going to happen. And I don't like to predict based on hypothetical scenarios, so I'm just not really going to think about it. Whichever one wins here, I think, is the logical prediction for the Oscar. But if for BAFTA specifically, I think there's a couple things here. Number one, which film is more like a BAFTA screenplay? This doesn't always work out, seeing as Coda won here. Licorice Pizza also beat Belfast here. But I think I would probably say Anatomy is more attuned to BAFTA's taste than The Holdovers is, at least in this specific category. The Holdovers would make sense as a winner. However, I think Anatomy makes a little bit more sense. I'm also thinking about the fact that Justine Triet won the European Film Award for Best Director and got the Oscar nomination for Best Director, on top of the fact that her film is in Best Film here. Now, The Holdovers is also in Best Film, and both Justine Triet and Alexander Payne have a Best Director nomination here. So either way, it does kind of make sense. However, based on the European Film Award win and the Oscar nomination for Best Director, there's something that's telling me that Justine Triet was top two here, meaning that the chapter automatically voted for her along with Christopher Nolan, who is obviously the other uh, automatic nominee. There's obviously no way to ever know that, but that's my suspicion based on how the Oscar nominations played out. Though the Zone of Interest would also make sense for that. So who knows? The fact also that Anatomy of a Fall has a Best Director nomination at the Oscars, while The Holdovers does not, kind of makes a lot of sense to me, even if it is BAFTA. So I'm going to say Anatomy of a Fall here, and I think that will carry on to the Oscars. Best Director, it's Christopher Nolan. There's no contest. Yorgos Lanthimos and Martin Scorsese aren't even here. So the runner-up, I think honestly, is probably Justine Triet, although it really does not matter. Nolan is going to win. Animated film, it's going to be between Boy and the Heron and Spider-Verse. BAFTA is very similar to the Oscars in that they tend to fall in line behind the frontrunner and the most popular film here, which is why I'm going to go with Spider-Verse. There is a chance to go with The Boy and the Heron, though, because they did not have the opportunity to give the award to Spirited Away because the category did not exist at BAFTA yet. But I'm also not going to get my hopes up about that. I do think The Boy and the Heron is the more deserving winner here. It's in my top 5 movies of the year. That being said, I think Spider-Verse makes more sense even at BAFTA because it is the more popular film. Film not in the English language. If The Zone of Interest were in Best Film along with Anatomy of a Fall, I think I would probably go with that because it is their submission to the Academy Awards. And it could still win. However, the fact that Anatomy of a Fall has the Best Film nomination makes me think that is going to win the award instead. That being said, if The Zone of Interest won here, I wouldn't be all that surprised. Best Documentary, 20 Days in Mariupol. It is sweeping, and it is also the only Oscar-nominated film here. Rest in peace, Beyond Utopia. You were great. I don't think this movie is going to lose a single step throughout the season. Outstanding debut by a British writer, director, or producer. I don't think any of these films are quite as obvious as Aftersun was last year. And there have been cases where we think they're going to go one way and they go another, like going for The Harder They Fall instead of Passing. But I think Occam's Razor would suggest that How to Have Sex is going to pick up a win here for Molly Manning Walker, the writer and director. In fact, I really don't even know what the Harder They Fall would be. Bobby Wine, Earth Mama. I haven't even heard of these other two films. Yeah, I'm going to go with How to Have Sex here. I think it's a pretty obvious choice. Outstanding British film, it's going to be Poor Things. They always go with the bigger Oscar contending film. They did put forward Zone of Interest as their international feature submission, but one, it's not in Best Film, and two, it is not the strongest picture contender here. It is Poor Things. Even when a movie is not super British and it wins over a non-British film, it is because the film is a bigger Oscar contender. Like Promising Young Woman or Three Billboards, it is going to be Poor Things. And I don't think Best Film will be any different in terms of how obvious it is. It is going to be Oppenheimer. Second place is probably Poor Things, maybe Anatomy of a Fall. I really think it's going to be The Holdovers, though. End of conversation. So there's your BAFTA predictions. Yeah, have fun with these. Goodbye.